I could almost touch my dream, but I had the suitcase packed 2 days in advance. Not because I was eager, though I was, but because I needed to be sure. I checked and rechecked the zipper, the boarding passes, the passport, the hotel printouts folded and stored inside a protective plastic sleeve. I had never traveled beyond the borders of our town. At 65, a widow for the last 8 years, I had poured every breath of my quiet, invisible life into one dream: Paris. It wasn't a wild fantasy. It was the slow, steady kind of dream that rises like bread in a warm kitchen. Years of saving, coins tucked into envelopes, coupons clipped instead of new shoes, hand-me-down coats. I made do always for the sake of my children. And for this, I told myself it would be a gift to all 3 of us, me, my daughter Leah, and my son Jordan. A final memory, a shared joy before the years turned too heavy to carry. They had both moved back in after their divorces. We shared the old house. 3 adults under one roof, navigating old roles with fraying patience. I thought Paris might heal some of that. Maybe let us breathe different air, see each other with new eyes. But the night before the flight, the mood shifted. Leah was pacing the living room, cradling her dog Toby like a child. She had rescued him 5 years ago, and since then, he had been her shadow, her sun, her shield from responsibility. "I can't find anyone to watch him," she said for the 4th time that evening, voice taut with stress that seemed exaggerated. "All the kennels are full. Everyone's out of town." I offered solutions. "There's that woman from church, Beatrice. She pets it sometimes." Leah waved the idea away. "She lets the dogs sleep outside. Toby would never forgive me." Jordan sat nearby, sipping from a can of soda, watching the news, not contributing. "We can't cancel," I said softly. "It's non-refundable." I didn't say cancel, Leah snapped, hugging Toby tighter. "But if he doesn't have a place to stay, I'm not leaving him." "We leave in 12 hours, I reminded them. My voice trembled. Not from anger, from fear. I could feel the ground shifting beneath something I had thought was certain. Jordan finally spoke. "She's not going to board the dog, Mom. Let it go. Let it go." Like I was clinging to something unreasonable. The night passed in anxious silence. I stayed up, walking through the checklist in my head, double-checking the bags, confirming the ride to the airport. At 4 a.m, the sun not yet risen, I came downstairs to find Leah standing by the dining table, my passport in her hands. It was torn, the cover ripped down the center, the pages shredded like confetti. What did you do?" My voice was barely a whisper. Leah didn't flinch. She didn't even look sorry. "You can't go now," she said. "So there's no issue. You stay. We'll go." I stared at the pieces in her hand. "You're joking," I said. But I knew she wasn't. Her mouth was set in that same hard line she used when yelling at customer service reps or leaving angry voicemails. "Mom," Jordan said from behind me. I turned. He was leaning against the wall, his suitcase at his feet. "It just makes more sense this way. Your place is here. With the house. With Toby. This trip was a bit much for you anyway." I couldn't speak. Leah laughed, a short, high sound. "You'll be fine. You don't even speak French." My mouth opened, then closed. I had been practicing phrases for months. I could say bonjour, ask for directions, order food. I had practiced for this. For them. I paid for everything, I managed to say. Leah rolled her eyes. "And we thank you. Really. But come on. It's Paris. You hate crowds." And stares. Jordan nodded in agreement. I looked down at the paper in my hand. Torn. Useless. They left within the hour. The door closed behind them, laughter echoing down the front steps. My body felt disconnected. My legs wouldn't. My mind a fog. Toby whined at my feet, pawing at my slipper. I went to the table and sat. The empty chair across from me caught the morning light. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner and something slightly burnt. I had made a goodbye breakfast, but no one ate. The clock ticked. I had dreamed of Paris since I was 17. I used to sit in the school library, flipping through books with photos of the Eiffel Tower, the bridges, the gardens. I imagined walking those streets, not as a tourist, but as someone finally breathing. I thought, after years of raising them alone, after putting off every desire for bills and braces and therapy and late-night emergency room visits, that maybe, finally, I could have this. Instead, I had a torn passport and a dog licking peanut butter off his paws. The silence in the house became unbearable. I opened my phone. Their selfies were already appearing. Leah with Toby on her lap in the car, a final goodbye photo captioned, "Off to Paris, au revoir Toby." The irony bit into my skin like frost. I scrolled further. Jordan posted a photo of the airplane wing above the clouds. "Freedom," he wrote. They never posted about me. Never said thank you. Never said sorry. And yet, I could still hear their voices in the empty air. Leah's sharp, "Your place is here." Jordan's cold, "Let it go. Let it go." The words echoed until they cracked something in me. I got up slowly, picked up the torn pieces of the passport from the trash can, held them in my hands like a funeral. Then I went to the window. The light was soft. The trees outside shimmered with early sunlight. I opened it, let the breeze in, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the house was mine. It was theirs, and they had just told me that I didn't belong in it. The chair creaked as I sat again. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just breathed, shallow and quiet, wondering when exactly I had become the background noise in their lives. I had imagined Paris would be the thing that brought us back together. Instead, it showed me how far apart we had always been. The house was too quiet. They were gone. I stood in the kitchen doorway and looked around as if something would be different. But everything was the same. The stack of unread mail still leaned against the fruit bowl. The coat rack still held my faded jacket, the same one I wore to work every cold morning for 30 years. I thought about what she said. "You stay. We'll go." And the way she said it, like it was obvious, like it was a favor to me. Her voice didn't crack with guilt or hesitation. It was calm, certain, sharp. I remembered how her hand didn't shake as she tore my passport. Her face, smooth and cold, didn't even twitch with regret. Just that one small smile. That satisfied, tired smile that always appeared when she thought she'd fixed a problem in her own way. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the chair where Jordan always dropped his backpack. He never asked, never offered, never paid a single cent for the trip. "It just makes more sense this way," he had said. He said that like he was the one doing the math. Like I hadn't spent 15 years doing the calculations so he could have sneakers and lunches and school books. I remembered when he got caught shoplifting at 16, and I spent 2 weeks of work breaks in the courthouse line trying to make sure it didn't go on his record. When his first marriage fell apart, he came back here with no job and a box of broken dishes. I fed him. I kept his clothes clean. And when I asked him to come on this trip, when I said this was my dream, he didn't hesitate. But not out of love, out of convenience. Because I was paying. I was paying, and still I was the one left behind. Every word they said sat on me like a weight I couldn't lift. Every gesture, the way Leah held her dog instead of looking at me, the way Jordan sighed like I was being dramatic, it built something inside me I didn't know how to name. Not anger. Not yet. But something worse. Something deeper. I remembered the way Leah laughed when I asked what we were going to do. "You don't even speak French," she said, like that meant something. Like that was a joke. I had a small notebook upstairs. I had been writing down phrases for months. I had even watched online lessons. Every night before bed, after cleaning their dishes and folding their laundry, I sat with that notebook and learned how to ask where the train station was. But they never noticed. No one asked what I was learning. No one saw the notebook. They just saw someone who made sandwiches and kept the toilet paper stocked. "Your place is here," Jordan had said. My place. As if I had been assigned one. As if someone had written on a paper chart, mother, widowed, housekeeper. Station, kitchen. Duration, until no longer needed. I picked up my cup of tea from earlier that morning. Cold now. Bitter. I poured it down the sink. Their words played over and over in my head, like a song stuck on repeat. And every time they did, I saw a different memory. Jordan at 5, pulling at my dress, asking for a toy at the store. Me saying, "We can't afford it, honey." Him crying. Me staying up that night sewing something out of old socks just to see him smile. Leah at 10, sick with the flu. Me sitting beside her, cold cloth on her head, whispering stories through the night to distract her from the fever. They don't remember that, but I do. And now all they see is someone to hold the leash while they go enjoy what I paid for. That thought made me sit down. I had paid for everything. The tickets, the hotel, the tour, the insurance, the new suitcase Jordan insisted he needed, the travel-sized shampoos Leah forgot to buy. I remembered the way she tossed her things into the suitcase that morning, laughing with Jordan. I heard her say, "She'll be fine," like I was a potted plant, not a person. She laughed when I cried. When she held up my torn passport and saw my hands shaking, she didn't say sorry. She said, "Looking for you in Paris. Let's play with Toby." And she laughed. That laugh didn't sound like her. It sounded like someone meaner. Someone who had decided my tears were worth less than a vacation. She didn't hug me goodbye. Neither did Jordan. He just patted my shoulder once, like I was a coworker being let go. Then they left. The door closed. The car started. And I sat in that kitchen, surrounded by silence, by used plates, by a memory of something that hadn't even happened. I looked around the room and wondered when it had stopped being mine. When had I become a visitor in this house? Maybe it was the day Leah moved back in and started using the best dishes for the dog. Or when Jordan changed the internet password without telling me. Or maybe it was long before that. Maybe it was when I started saying yes to everything. Yes, I'll help. Yes, I'll pay. Yes, I'll wait. Yes, I'll stay. Stay home. Stay behind. Stay invisible. I didn't realize how many years I'd been doing it, making myself smaller to give them more space. I thought I was being a good mother. Now I saw it. They didn't want me to come. They wanted the trip. Not the company. Not the time together. Not me. And they got it. I spent the rest of the day in silence. I didn't cook dinner. I didn't feed the dog again. He curled up by the door, waiting. I waited, too. Not for them, but for something inside me to catch up. By nightfall, I was still at the table, still staring at that empty chair. I imagined them on the plane. I wondered if they would miss me. I knew the answer. They wouldn't. Not tomorrow. Not in Paris. Not even when they checked into the hotel I had picked out. The one with the balcony view of the Seine. I had imagined standing there with them, watching the lights come on, sharing a bottle of sparkling water and laughter. I imagined the photo we would take. Now I pictured them taking it without me. 2 smiles. No trace of the one who made it possible. I walked to the front hallway. The suitcase I had packed was still there. The gifts I bought. The tiny guidebook with my notes. Everything was still where I left it. No one even looked at it. They were so eager to leave. So ready to go without me. I felt like a coat someone forgot to hang back up. That night, I crawled into bed and stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I didn't sleep. I just laid there, remembering every moment where I could have said no. And didn't. Every moment where I could have asked for something back. And didn't. I thought giving everything would earn me something. Love. Respect. A seat at the table. But all I earned was silence. And this house full of their things. I closed my eyes and whispered the only words that felt true. They left me. And I let them. This night, I sat at the edge of the bed for so long that my legs went numb. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I just stared at the suitcase by the door, the one I had packed for Paris. Everything still folded inside, untouched. A red scarf I knitted for the trip still smelled like the lavender drawer sachets I had tucked away years ago, too sentimental to throw out. That was when it hit me. They weren't coming back different. They weren't going to realize anything. Not Leah. Not Jordan. If they had felt even a shred of guilt, they wouldn't have laughed when they walked out. They wouldn't have looked me in the eye and said, "Your place is here." I didn't sleep that night, but I woke up. The morning was cold. I turned the heat on just for me, and I made a decision. Not out of revenge. Not yet. It started with something else. Something that surprised me. Clarity. I picked up my torn passport from the drawer I had stuffed it in. The pieces were bent now, edges curling. I laid them out on the kitchen table. My name. My photo. ripped in half. And I heard Leah's voice again. You'll be fine. You hate crowds. That wasn't true. I loved people. I loved walking through markets and overhearing laughter. I loved the noise of trains, the clinking of cafe cups, the smell of croissants warming on trays. I had imagined every detail. She hadn't said those words because they were true. She said them because it was easier than saying what she really felt. This was never about you. Jordan hadn't even looked back. I could have yelled when they left. I could have stood in front of their taxi and demanded they give me back what I earned. But I didn't, because deep down, I still wanted to believe they loved me, still hoped for kindness. But I had done my part. I raised them, fed them, paid for them. Now it was time to do something else. I got dressed, pulled my coat on, and walked 2 blocks to the small postal office near the corner of Glen and 5th. The same one where I used to mail off school permission slips and birthday cards they never thanked me for. This time, I stood in line for a passport application. I need it expedited, I told the woman behind the glass. She nodded. Travel plans? I hesitated, then smiled. Yes, back home. I opened my laptop and logged into the hotel reservation account. I had made the booking in my name. I always did the paperwork. Jordan and Leah couldn't be bothered. My hands hovered over the buttons. My fingers felt light. I canceled the room's access codes, changed the registered name, removed both guests. No notification went to them. The system didn't ask if I was sure. That silence was the first kindness I'd received in weeks. Then I opened the flight app. I had booked everything with travel insurance, another thing they laughed at. You're always so paranoid, Leah had said. I used the policy to transfer the return tickets into my name. Not for now, but soon. They would arrive in Paris expecting a hotel, expecting comfort, and they would find locked doors. Let them figure it out. Let them pay for their own comfort this time. I had done my part. I had earned peace. In the afternoon, I went to the bank. Sat down with the same man who once helped me open a small savings account when I was pregnant with Jordan. His name was Thomas, and his eyes were kind. I need to pause access to the household account, I said. He blinked. Everything okay? I nodded. I just need to stop being the only one responsible. He didn't ask questions. Within 10 minutes, their cards were frozen. The auto pay for Leah's phone bill, the overdraft protection for Jordan's checking, the grocery line item I used to keep stocked so they could swipe without asking, it was all gone. The weight lifted like fog after a storm. That night, I made a list. Every dollar I'd spent. Every quiet contribution I never asked to be thanked for. New tires for Jordan's car. Vet appointments for Toby. A weekend retreat Leah claimed was for mental wellness. None of it had ever been repaid. That list was longer than I expected. Midway through writing, I found something folded in my drawer. A photo of me, age 19, in a hand-sewn dress outside a bookstore. Smiling. Before kids. Before bills. Before silence. I stared at her. And I said out loud, "You deserve to be seen." I hadn't spoken to myself that way in decades. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Then the phone rang. A message. Jordan. Hey, Mom. Weird issue with the hotel. Can you check if something went wrong on your end? They don't have our names on the room. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, Leah texted, "Did you cancel the booking? This isn't funny. It's freezing." This was followed by dozens of calls that I did not answer and text messages accusing me of almost every mortal sin. I could have written something cruel. I could have told her exactly how it felt to be told to stay home like I was a dog they couldn't bring on the plane. But I didn't. Instead, I replied, "When you return, you have 14 days to make new arrangements. I'll be moving forward with my life." That was all. Then I turned off the phone. It reminded me of the day, years ago, when I was 20 and living with my father. He kicked me out when I told him I wanted to go to college instead of marrying the boy he picked. He said, "Your place is here." The same words Jordan used. But I went anyway. I left with 2 blouses, 1 pair of shoes, and $3 in my pocket. And I made a life. I could do it again. That memory burned in my chest like something holy. I wasn't a weak old woman. I was someone who had survived before, someone who could again. The next morning, I picked up my new passport. The photo showed my gray hair, my lined eyes, my steady jaw. I looked tired, but also like someone who was no longer afraid. When I got home, I booked a flight, one seat, one suitcase, and this time, no extra tickets. They came back 2 days earlier than planned. It was raining. I heard the car pull up just after 6 in the evening. The tires made a familiar splash through the puddle near the mailbox, the one I had told Jordan to fix last spring. He never did. I didn't get up from my chair. I stayed in the same spot by the living room window, staring at the sky. It was a deep gray, heavy with water and silence. The front door opened quickly. Too quickly. They didn't knock. Of course not. It was still their house in their eyes. Still my kitchen. Still my hands that washed their plates. "Mom?" Jordan's voice. I didn't answer. I heard the bags drop on the hardwood floor, wet with rain. "Mom, we need to talk." Leah was the next voice. Sharper. More impatient. "You changed the hotel. We had nowhere to stay. We had to sleep in the airport for a night. Do you have any idea what that was like?" She was angry. Angry like I had canceled her birthday party. Like I had ruined her plans for no reason. Jordan followed behind her, not yelling, but his tone wasn't calm either. "You didn't answer any of our messages. What were you thinking? We didn't even know if we were going to get back. You turned off everything." I still didn't speak. I just sat there, hands folded in my lap. Leah stepped closer, the wet sound of her shoes moving across the rug. "We used your money. You can't just take it away halfway through." That was the moment I stood up. I walked into the hallway, stopped in front of both of them, and looked them each in the eye. For the first time in a long time, I saw them not as my children, not as people I needed to protect. I saw them as they were. People who took. "You used everything I gave you," I said slowly. "For years." Leah shook her head. "This isn't the time to lecture." "No," I said. "It's the time to listen." Jordan raised his hands like he was trying to calm a fire. "Look, maybe we could have done things differently. But this was extreme." I laughed once. Quiet. It surprised even me. Extreme was tearing up my passport. Extreme was saying my place is here. Extreme was laughing while I cried. Their faces changed. But not with guilt. With discomfort. They didn't like hearing it out loud. Leah crossed her arms. "You said you wanted us to have a nice time. You planned it. You paid for it. That means something." "It does," I said. "It means I trusted you." They looked at each other. Not because they understood, but because they were trying to figure out how to fix the situation. I didn't give them the chance. "You have 14 days. Jordan blinked. "What?" 14 days to find somewhere else to live. "I want the house back." Leah's mouth dropped open. "You can't be serious." "I am." Jordan stepped forward. "Mom, come on. We've just had a long trip. This isn't the time. It's the only time," I said. "Because if I wait any longer, I'll change my mind. And I'm tired of changing my mind to keep everyone else comfortable." Silence filled the hallway. Rain tapped against the windows. Leah dropped her bag. "You're breaking this family." "No," I said. "I just stopped letting you treat me like I wasn't part of it." Jordan looked down. I saw his hands clench, the way they used to when he lost a game as a boy. Back then, he would cry. Now, he just went quiet. "Where are we supposed to go?" he asked. "You're both adults." I turned and walked back to the living room. They didn't follow. Later that night, I heard Leah on the phone. Her voice was loud, frustrated. "She's gone insane." "Yes, she kicked us out." "No, we didn't do anything wrong." It's like she snapped. That word stuck with me. Snapped. I thought about it as I cleaned the kitchen. Snapped is what people say when someone stops taking what they shouldn't have been expected to take in the first place. The days that followed were tense. They barely spoke to me unless they were asking for something. Every time they entered the room, they moved around me like I was the one in the way. Leah left dishes in the sink. Jordan blasted music late at night. They were trying to remind me that they still lived here. But I had already started moving forward. I looked through boxes in the attic. Found old photo albums. Letters. A travel guide to Paris from the 1990s. I put them in a bag. I began calling real estate agents. Quietly, calmly, asking questions about small places for one. On the 5th day, Jordan knocked on my door. "We're looking," he said, "but rent is expensive. We might need more time." 14 days, I said. "Mom, be reasonable." I looked up at him. I was. For 30 years. He walked away. The closer the deadline came, the more the tension grew. Leah stopped speaking entirely. She slammed doors, left laundry half done. I didn't say anything. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. Let them feel the silence. Let them hear it the way I had heard theirs every time they dismissed me. On the 12th day, Leah finally spoke again. "What are you going to do when we're gone?" "Sit here alone." I didn't respond. She rolled her eyes. "Fine. Be lonely. See if we care." I walked past her and into the bedroom, closed the door. That night, I sat by the window again. The rain had stopped. I watched the streetlight flicker. I thought about the first time I held Jordan, the way he gripped my finger. I thought about Leah's first recital, her small shoes tapping on the wooden floor. I had loved them both in ways I never thought anyone could love another person. But love doesn't mean letting yourself be erased. Love is not a life sentence. On the 14th day, they packed. They didn't say goodbye. Leah slammed the trunk shut. Jordan didn't make eye contact. They drove away without looking back. I stood at the window. I didn't wave. The house was quiet again. But it wasn't the same kind of quiet. It wasn't the kind that hurt. It was the kind that felt clean. Free. Mine. The morning after they left, I stood in the center of the hallway and listened. There were no footsteps, no voices, no doors slamming, no dogs scratching at the pantry door, just stillness. And for once, it didn't feel empty. It felt mine. I made tea and drank it slowly. No one asked what was for breakfast. No one rolled their eyes when I stirred the cup too loudly. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the steam rise. I thought, so this is what peace sounds like. That same morning, I opened my email and found a message from the airline. My flight to Paris, the one I had booked under my own name this time, was confirmed. Departure in 3 days. I smiled without thinking. Later that afternoon, I picked up my new shoes from the cobbler. The same shoes I had planned to wear on the trip weeks ago. He looked at me and said, "You going somewhere special?" "Yes," I answered. "Somewhere I've waited too long to be." That evening, as I packed, I found something tucked in the folds of the suitcase. A card. It was from Jordan. From last Christmas. Just a generic store-bought greeting. Inside, it read, "Thanks for dinner. Hope you keep doing what you do best. Love you." I stared at the words. What I do best? He meant cooking, cleaning, paying. There was no mention of who I was, only what I gave. I folded the card and placed it in the trash. 2 days before my flight, I received a message from Leah. It was short. I left my laptop charger at the house. "Can you mail it?" No greeting. No thank you. No apology. I didn't reply. A few hours later, another message. This time from Jordan. "Hey, can we talk? We didn't end things well. Maybe we can figure something out." Still no accountability. Just the same smooth tone he always used when he wanted something. That evening, I went for a walk. The leaves were starting to change. I passed by a small cafe that had just opened, and the smell of fresh bread pulled me toward it. I sat alone, ordered a coffee and a croissant, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. No one needed me. And I didn't need to be needed. Back home, another message blinked onto my phone. Leah again. "I heard you're going to Paris." "Alone? Are you serious?" Then another. "You should be with family, not wandering around at your age." I stared at the screen. At your age. Those words echoed. Not long ago, they would have stung. Now, they just confirmed something I already knew. They didn't see me. Not really. They saw a helper, a wallet, a fixture, but not a woman, not someone with her own dreams. The night before my flight, I received one final message from someone I didn't recognize. Subject line, "You don't know me, but I know what you did." My heart skipped. I opened it, expecting anger. Instead, I read, "My name is Sarah. I'm Leah's friend. She complained about you kicking them out. But then she told me the full story. I just wanted to say, you did the right thing. Some of us watch our mothers disappear to make room for others. I'm glad you didn't. I read it 3 times. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. It wasn't validation I was looking for. It was proof that someone saw me and didn't just take. The next morning, I got into the taxi with my 1 suitcase. The driver was quiet. I liked that. When we pulled up to the airport, I didn't feel nervous. I felt steady. At the gate, a couple offered to take my photo in front of the window. I smiled. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. Boarding was smooth. My seat by the window looked out over the runway. As we lifted into the air, I watched the ground shrink below me. All those years, all that silence, all that invisible work, farther and farther away. When we landed in Paris, the sun was just rising. A soft golden light filled the cabin. I stepped into the airport, suitcase rolling behind me, and took a deep breath. It smelled like bread, and coffee, and newness. Outside, a taxi took me to the hotel, the one I had picked for myself. A single room, balcony view. At the front desk, the clerk smiled. "Welcome, madam." Madam, not mom, not the maid, not the invisible one. I went to my room, unpacked slowly, placed the red scarf on the chair, and then I did what I had dreamed of for decades. I stepped onto the balcony. The Eiffel Tower stood in the distance. Still, quiet, proud, just like me. I stayed there a long time. No one interrupted. No one needed me. I was alone. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't lonely. I was free. I realized age is not about weakness. It's about dignity. If you've ever felt like you don't belong, you're not alone. I won't be afraid to tell the truth anymore, even if it hurts. Paris waited. And this time I would go.